your hands together for the wonderful, the talented Raggy. Let's go. There he is.
Ah, my
There he is.
beauty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's here. He did it. We did it. We're making it happen,
Oh,
Raggy.
okay, cool.
Um,
Okay. How do I see the chat that's going on in your Twitch? Do I need to log into Twitch on
uh,
somewhere else and
yeah,
see?
if you want
Uh,
to, yeah, you can either pull it. I don't know what your setup is, but you can pull me up and mute me, and you could just be on my chat, or you can pull it
no,
up
I
on your
think
phone, and you can just mute your phone, and you can use your phone as a chat.
yeah. I'll just use my phone as a chat. I think I can mute the phone. Um, right now I have you on a speaker which is not directed towards my mic.
Oh,
So, do you hear any echoes going on, anything, or is this kind of an audio thing fine by you?
it's fine. Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo, but I'm not mad at it.
Okay.
The
Because
oh,
like this way, I don't need to use headphones at all.
that's fine.
And if the echo is coming from like like when you speak and then it echoes back, I can just reduce the volume of that audio a little bit, perhaps. But if it's okay with you, then I'm fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm okay with it. It's nothing that's so distracting that it's gonna be like, oh my god, it's totally cool, man.
okay.
Totally
All right. Good.
cool.
Good. Good. Good.
And I'm just
Uh,
gonna adjust you because for whatever reason I couldn't adjust you earlier. So here we are
mm,
adjusting. Thank you guys for your input, so we can. It doesn't sound bad at all. Yeah, they're all saying it's all good, not distracting. Oh my gosh, I got
okay.
wires twisted up. Raggy,
Yeah.
I've never done anything like this, so this is awesome. I've never had someone raid in and jump into the thing. This is great. I really appreciate it.
Cool. I mean, like I thought that if we had to do this thing, I'd love to meet people in your channel, but at the same time, bring in some people from my channel to also see your channel. And hey,
Yeah,
it,
exactly. But I appreciate it nonetheless. Was today a regular stream day for you?
yes, Fridays, over here, this is my regular stream thing,
Okay.
and usually my stream goes on for even a little bit longer.
Oh,
But
okay.
so it's kind of good because some of the folks who regularly follow my stream are still fresh, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know how it is when streamers do very long streams and then they raid you, and all of their followers and listeners are fatigued already.
Yes.
And then they come in, yeah, they come in just to sort of like they just to go away. And I usually try to bring in viewers uh, who are at least a little bit fresh. But then it's difficult. Sometimes you have a stream that just goes on and it's all happening good. But by the end of it, like I say, you can have a huge pile of viewers, but they go into the next stream and everybody's like, they're too tired, to focus again. Yeah.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? People have things to do, and I understand. Sometimes people don't want to look at this face right here. They're just like, I'm out. I get it. So I appreciate that that we were able to do this, and that we're all here together. And Naders, welcome in. Good to see you, my friend. Raggy. So man, I remember I was in your stream once, and you were talking about your high school days, and I can't remember exactly what you were saying, but I remember it was something. I don't know. I don't want to start off on a bummer, but like you were after high school, you had some trouble, but I'm just wondering where music came in, and I'm wondering if we could kind of start back then and sort of work our way up, if that's okay with you. I can't remember exactly. Like, are you a doctor? Is that right? Were you a physician?
Oh my God. Okay.
Hold on.
You straight away gone into categories of things that I avoid talking about in there.
It's
I
go ahead.
I always separate my day job from my music thingy.
Ah,
you know. So I try not to be specific about descriptions of what I do in my day job.
okay.
uh, if that's okay with you. But
No, no, that's
hey, but
totally
since
fine.
but have no worries. Anyway, it's your podcast, man. It's your podcast, and so I might as well as answer questions honestly. It's not like things are a big secret. It's just that over here in Asia, people find it very difficult to accept a person for what he is.
Hmm.
They always want to try to compartmentalize him into something. And so, if I'm a musician, I'm supposed to be just a bum, and they're very comfortable with me being a bum musician, and it will upset them if I'm not a bum. So what I do is I keep my day job separate and my
Hmm.
music separate, and it works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But since you asked, yeah, well, I am like but we don't discuss this in my stream. Yeah, we
Well, I
discuss
thought
this
I
in
was
your
in your
with your stream.
stream and you were telling everybody.
No, 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 no. You probably only you heard this when I was in Reina's stream a few days ago, and
Oh.
she was talking. And the conversation somehow came into how people need a second chance, or people can improve upon their lives in whatever they do.
Hmm.
And everybody was sharing, and I thought that I would also share something.
Ah, I'm
And what I
sorry.
said
Well,
was, no worries, no worries. Anyway, now it's in your stream, so it's good. See, when I was in school, I was always really, really interested in music.
hmm.
That was my passion. But my dad was like, one of these old school characters. Yeah, like, hey, you got to get a steady job. And over here in Asia, being a musician is not considered to be an occupation. Yeah, you
Yeah.
become a musician if you can't make it doing anything else, so to speak. Unfortunately, but music has always been for me like a passion. Yeah. If I go to see somebody performing somewhere and I hear live music, I can't be at the back. I have to run up right to the front of the stage and basically just sit next to the person who is performing, just watching. Uh, it's like when dogs are on heat, and then you have a male dog who's not been castrated, and you try to tell him, hey, don't go out there. There's just no way you can control him. Yeah, I'm like that when it comes to music.
Hmm.
And then my family is fairly musical. My dad, well, he was into North Indian music, classical North Indian music. He was a religious sort, and I come from a family, we Sikhs. I don't know whether anybody here knows what on earth a Sikh is, but basically, Sikhism is like a religion which is only about 500 years old, and it's got elements. It's from North India. Okay, it's from North India, and a lot of our prayers are focused around reading of a so-called a holy book. Everybody's got a holy book, yeah.
Hmm.
But this one, every single part of the holy book is written as a poem that is supposed to be sung, and so it's all like songs, and we're not talking about like 10 songs or so. We're talking about a couple of thousand of them, yeah. Many hundred pages thick, huge, big book of basically poems that were written to be sung, and they even would specify what uh, what musical scales each one was supposed to be sung in. The Indians call these musical scales ragas.
Hmm.
Maybe you've heard of that.
I
So
have.
anyway,
I have.
my dad was into this kind of a thing. He was a religious sort, and when I was like 10 years old, or even before that, yeah, I was already used to hearing these North Indian ragas, and in the temples, just like even I suppose Christian churches, you have gospel music. So we had our form of gospel music. Uh, but of course, in school we studied, and the medium of instruction was English. So my elder brothers and sisters were also listening to like the Beatles
Hmm.
and Elvis and Cliff Richard, and my elder sister was listening to a lot of uh, Ray Conniff, the Brothers Four, Hank Williams country music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I grew up. I mean, it's very unfortunate that I was a kid who couldn't be kept away from music. But I grew up in this family where everybody listened to some form of music or other. And my dad had a very old gramophone. Um, I'm just trying to see if anybody chatted something. My dad had an old gramophone. One of those things that there's got a bloody nail on it,
Mm-hmm.
a very crooked kind of an arm. You got to wind it up and then it will play. Yeah.
Yes.
So he had a ton of records, and they were all old classical North Indian music thingies. Yeah, with sitar music and tablas and flutes. And my sister had Toshiba turntable player. It
So.
could run on batteries or main power, and she would buy every single album by Ray Conniff or Hank Williams and Brothers Four. My eldest brother, he had an Akai tape reel deck. He
Mm-hmm.
was into the Beatles and
Right.
Elvis and those songs. And by the age of 6 or 7 years old, they couldn't keep me away from these bloody things. And I could have seriously destroyed and damaged all of their precious instruments, yeah, because they did cost each person a lot of money.
What kind of
So rather than
instruments?
have me,
What kind of instruments did you guys have around the
yeah,
house
so
at
okay,
this
I'm
time?
coming to this. So rather than destroy their equipment, they let me learn how to use them and how
Ah,
to turn them on and stuff.
I see.
So age of 7, I was already able to use my dad's gramophone, my
Hmm.
sister's turntable thing, and my brother's tape reel.
I see.
And my dad played the North Indian tablas. Do you know what that is?
I do.
Drums,
I
two
do.
drums.
I love
Okay,
the tablas.
yep. And he played the harmonium, which was like it's like an organ thingy, but you use a
Yep.
bellow
Yep. It's like an
on one side. It's like
accordion
an
with
accordion which is on the floor. Yep.
the keyboard on it. Yeah.
Yes. 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 So and then my dad would sing hymns, the religious hymns with that, and so I was trained to play these instruments as well. It is basically like he play and I couldn't keep away from him. So rather than have me irritate him, he just taught me how to play a few songs. Yep, that's it. That's the
Yeah.
harmonium
Yeah.
thingy. And then the tabla thing, again, my dad played a rudimentary amount of tabla. My eldest brother played the tablas. He also played the harmonium, and he could sing the gospel songs. My eldest sister was not into that. She just wanted to sing old North Indian Hindustani music, the kinds that come out in the movies.
Mm.
Um, so anyway, I had they taught me how to play the instruments that they played just to keep me away from their instruments. At the age of 10 years, old, no, hang on, 11 years old, I started training how to play the tablas from a guy, a priest at the temple who had a master's degree in the tabla.
Wow.
And I was in training for a few years to be a professional tablas player.
Wow.
And when I was 13 years old, I was due to go to India to do my master's, to do a master's degree program in the tabla.
Wow. But
But that was like 13 years old, yeah.
wow.
This guy who was my teacher or guru, he was a priest, but he had a master's degree, and he was a good buddy. He was a good buddy of Ravi Shankar's tabla player.
Hmm.
Ravi Shankar, the famous sitarist.
I know
He had a
Ravi
tabla
well.
player called Ustaz Alaraka Khan, yeah, widely acknowledged to be like one of the best tabla players in the world. And
Incredible. Just
he was good buddies with
amazing.
my tabla guru. So my
Wow.
tabla guru wrote a letter to that Indian. There's a fine arts university there. Got Ravi Shankar's tabla player to endorse that his recommendation, and so I was set to go to India to study uh, the tablas. But very fortunately for me, we had like a family meeting, and my eldest brother told my dad that they say the boy is too young to go to do this. He's got a whole life ahead of him, and if he, becomes a tabla player, he just end up, being a priest or somebody there. There's so many other things that he could do, and so and so I didn't go there.
Wow,
And then since I
that's
wasn't going
interesting.
to do,
Just pause there for a second. Is that kind of custom for older in Malaysia? Is that kind of customary for older siblings to sort of dictate what younger siblings' lives will do, or is that just something specific to your family?
that's just specific in my family. I'm very fortunate. My eldest brother, there's a very wide age gap.
Ah,
There's just eight of us. There's eight of us kids. So my eldest brother, I mean, if you give like 2 or 3 years between each child, so you can see my eldest brother was already about 20 years older than me. Yeah.
wow,
So and and when I was in about 12 years old, or that around that time, my eldest brother had already graduated from university, which was like a rarity in Malaysia in those days.
wow,
Uh, so he had, a proper, decent job. My dad was a civil servant who crawled his way up from just being a very lowly dispatch rider to a fairly good, high-ranking civil servant. So
wow.
my brother told my dad, he says, like, everybody in the family has basically improved themselves through education. So why are you now wanting, this boy to sort of like, go in for music, this thing? And so anyway, it was then agreed upon that I was too young
Yeah.
for this. I'm so grateful for that, yeah. Because the very next year, I discovered the guitar.
Oh, let's go. Let's
Yeah, my
go.
one of my brothers, about 2 years older than me, he had a bunch of friends and they were learning how to play the guitar. And in those days, when everybody just had an acoustic guitar, the cheapest acoustic guitar you could get.
Right.
Uh, and hang on, am I rambling on too much?
No,
Do you
no,
want to
no.
ask me ask something else?
This is amazing. Please keep talking.
Yeah. So anyway, so we had this. He My brother was this brother of mine. He's about like see, maybe 6 years older than me.
Mm,
Yeah, 5 or 6 years older than me. And so when I was about like still learning how to play, still with the tabla classes, so to speak, my brother was already picking up the guitar. So I would have been about like 12 years old, and he was like about 16 or 17. And his bunch of schoolmates were learning how to play the guitar. But all Asian families frowned upon their kids learning how to play the guitar. It was considered to be a ridiculous instrument. Yeah. If you played the piano, it wasn't so bad. That seemed to be a bit cultured.
uh-huh. But
So the
I'm
problem
just
was,
curious, why did they think that? I mean, because I know the sitar is well, I used to have a sitar, so I know how complicated a sitar is, and it is nowhere near a guitar is nowhere near as complicated as a sitar. So I'm just curious, is it because you guys use such complicated instruments? You guys looked at the guitar as sort of just child's play? I'm just curious why people thought that in your culture.
yeah. No, no, because the sitar would be used to play, traditional music.
Right, right.
But the guitar was going to be like playing rock and roll and all
Gotcha.
this like devil's music
The
thingy, yeah.
devil's music, yes.
Yeah, and so anyway, my brother's friends would come to my house when my parents were not around, so to speak, and they would meet and they'd all jam on the guitar. They were all learning how to play at the same time. There was one guy who knew who knew music. Yeah, this guy was like a child prodigy musician.
Hmm.
Yeah, he played the keyboards and he was already in a real band by the age of 13. And he also knew the guitar and he knew all those bloody chords. So he would, teach these guys one or two chords, and then they'd come over to my house and they'd be strumming away, trying to learn some songs. None of them learn how to read music. Even I don't learn how to read music. Yeah, we were just like listening to a song, and somebody gives you the chords. And where I came into the picture was they wouldn't allow me to touch the guitar. They said, "You just play the bloody tablas, and you just stick to that." So my brother wouldn't even allow me to touch his guitar.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I would just watch them. But I was that guy. You can't keep me away from an instrument. I would just like I would hang around. So anyway, the first day or the second day, we already realized that my brother's friends had a problem. They couldn't tune the damn guitars. In those days, we had no tuners.
Yeah.
You could buy some, pitch pipes. I don't know whether people still know what they are, but you could blow them and
Oh yeah.
it have six reeds, and
Mm-hmm.
you would approximate to the six strings. Yeah,
Yep.
and these guys would try, and they couldn't tune the damn guitars. So there was like four of them trying to play with guitars that, I mean, each guitar was not in tune, and then they couldn't synchronize the tunings. It sounded horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I told my brother's friends, I think I can tune the guitars for you, because when you play the tablas, it's like like a snare drum, for example. They
Mm-hmm.
got so many lugs that you tune.
Yeah.
A tabla has got about like 14 or 16 of these things. They are fixed by strings, and there's like wooden stoppers. You have to hit the stoppers down to tighten the strings. But basically, you got to tune the all 14 or 16 sections of it. The bloody guitar, one string, one key, no problem at all.
Yep.
So I just got twang, 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 twang.
Right.
They play me the pitches on the pipes, and it took me about like 1 minute per guitar. And so I was always I was always allowed to watch them practice, because whenever somebody couldn't play a chord, he'd say, "Oh, my guitar string has gone out of tune. Here, Reggie, tune the guitar for me." And so I was their tuner guy.
So your ear
Uh,
was pretty trained for matching pitches and for finding notes because of the tablas.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because tuning the tablas, you need to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's that. And then subsequently, that priest who was training me in the tablas, he realized that I wasn't going to do the master's thingy, and there was only a certain level to which I could go. And then he was transferred. He moved out of my town to a different town, the famous city of Malacca. I don't know if you heard of it.
I
It's
haven't.
about 100 kilometers away from where I lived. But basically, he was away, and I no longer had to go for my daily tabla classes. Tabla training was like 2 hours one-on-one training every day in the morning, and then 3 to 4 hours of practices, self rehearsal every day. And on Sundays, I perform in the temple along with the priest and anybody else who was singing the hymns. So it was very intense thing. And now suddenly I had freedom. What did I do with my freedom? I picked up the bloody guitar and learned how to
Let's
play
go.
it. Yeah.
Nice to see Raggy Singh here.
Robbie, thank you so much for that sub, my friend. Welcome in. Uh, I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you. Yeah, Malaga. So this is Malaga. This is where your guru moved. And
Yep, he moved.
yeah.
And but I had freedom from him. And then so I was learning the guitar, and then my dad got pretty upset. Said, bloody hell, now that you're wasting all that tabla education that you had, and now you're playing this silly la 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 music. He'd call it la 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 music, yeah. And he says, go practice your tabla. And I said, yeah, but I don't, like, the priest is not around. And unfortunately, he had trained me to too high a level. I couldn't go to the temple and just play along with people who were doing the normal hymns, because I was being trained to play the classical form of tablas. But then he was no longer around. Yeah, so my dad had his revenge. My dad had his revenge whenever we'd have school holidays. Sometimes it will be like a 3 week school break. Sometimes it'll be a month long school break thingy. He put me on a bus and make me go to Malacca, and I'd stay in Malacca temple, and then I'd have to resume my guitar, my tabla classes there.
Hmm.
And the priest there was already training many other students and youngsters and adults how to play the tablas and how to sing the hymns,
Hmm.
because that was part of his job. So when I came there, he sort of like brought me in as like an extra tutor. So I'd be sort of like supervising all these guys who were like learning how to play the tabla.
Yeah.
And many of them could have been adults, and I was here. I was just a young kid, yeah. And then in the evenings, we would have this one-on-one rehearsals for our tabla, again classical tabla thingy. Uh, and then, but thankfully, when school holidays were like over, then I could come back and resume school. But the downside of it is that I never had any sort of like holidays. I never had the typical uh, childhood boys holidays things. I never visited people. I couldn't do anything. Yeah, because like I was either in school or I was away for this tabla thing. So when I finally, made it to university, it was like a freedom to do whatever I wanted to, and I didn't touch the tabla at all. Yeah, I just left it aside because
Oh,
uh, it 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 became associated in my mind with this loss of freedom. And I I mean I probably wasn't like what you would call a child prodigy or one of those things. But I was fairly good in the tablas.
yeah,
But when I watch movies now about child prodigies, and when I see people who have children who are very good in something, not necessarily music, maybe tennis or whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I see parents pushing their kids to excel, I always feel pity for the kids. Yeah, seriously, I always feel pity because I know that beyond a certain stage, yeah, beyond a certain stage when the child is not allowed to enjoy his life, it's not allowed to develop in other ways, he'll begin to view that instrument, that thing that he's good at, he begin to look at it as a form of prison,
No.
imprisonment. Until today, yeah, I probably was much better at the tabla than I'll ever be on the guitar, honestly. But till today, I don't play the tabla.
Wow, I was gonna ask. And, like tabla, I've tried studying it a little bit and just self study. I like taka 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 taka, like that kind of
Yep, yep, yep,
the
yep,
way
yep.
that they do.
It's
Oh my
just
God, it's so beautiful. I love it so much. And it's interesting that you said that it became sort of the bane of your existence because you felt like this is all you had, and this is all they wanted you to do. And I'm sure that it was rough. So as soon as you were able to escape to university, you sort of was like, forget that. I'm playing guitar, I'm learning what I want to learn, and that's it. That's it.
yep,
Wow.
that's it. Yeah, and I did occasionally, every once in a while, I begin to feel guilty about like not playing the tabla, and then I bring it back a little bit. And in my first album, I actually played the tabla for one song.
Oh.
I tried to blend in, Western music with
Hmm.
my Indian, North Indian music, and so I played the tablas a little bit for one song. And even now, when I'm doing this streaming on Twitch, I keep telling myself, hey, maybe I'll bring out, my tablas and start incorporating it into some songs because as far as the grooves are concerned in the drums, yeah, the tabla is a beautiful instrument. Just
Oh, I love it.
two drums, but by golly, yeah, you can create a whole ton of notes out of
Yeah.
it. And in Western music, I don't read and write music, but in tablas, I was formally trained. And all the notes that you're saying, there's they are scored because like every note that you play on a tabla has a certain sound, and so there's a letter in the alphabet for that each sound. So you make words out of it. So for example, here we go, tabla language
Let's
now.
go.
For example, when we want to say like one beat is like in a 4/4, da din din da din din da. When you play the tabla, it does sound like that,
Yeah, yeah.
and then right, and then when you count, I noticed like like, even till today when I count music and I'm trying to learn a song and I'm trying to find the quarter notes, I use the old Indian way of calculating. We use the fingers and you put your thumb on the crease of your little finger. That's one. The next crease is two, the next crease is three, and then the next crease there is four.
Hmm.
So when I want to do a 4/4 song, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if
Wow.
the song is triplets, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So when I listen to a song, if I'm listening to a waltz and I want to practice the vocals, I just need to keep moving this, and I know I'm three, 4 count. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to do 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 do. So as long as I have this, I'll never go out of the count. And if it's a 4/4 song, I can just do this. So I still use that thingy there. And
Mm.
then the tabla, when you write the score, for example, you can like da din din da din din da.
Okay.
It's more complicated than just counting the notes, because for the tabla they have what they call the closed notes and the open notes. So there are certain beats for which that like the one beat which might be closed, and then the three might be open. Like reggae music and all this music, they have got
Hmm.
structures. So then you can improvise it, but within the count, and you'll know where you are closing. So if I'm going to close 1 and 4, I know da tirikira tir da da ta ta da 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 tirikira da da dinna kira da tit da da dinna. So I can speak out the words, and then when you want to plan it, you just write it down.
Yeah.
You just write it down, and then you see, okay, it follows structure. Then you just play it out. So a typical tabla thing, like you will say da 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 da, and you play ta da 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 da. So people think you're just saying things on the beat, but actually you're pronouncing out the sound.
Right.
So when people hear it, you're supposed to make it sound like that. And
Yeah.
then so anyway, that's when I do my music now. Even then, that's why I cannot play songs by looking just at like music lyrics and chord charts, because they are devoid of feel.
Mm.
I need to feel the groove of a song that I am playing.
Wow.
But it also is a negative thing for me, having done all that weird tabla shit, because Western music 3/4 and 4/4 are common counts.
Right.
In the tabla, you have what? 3/4 is very rare. They prefer to use this as a 6/4. Two counts or two counts of threes, and then 4/4. And then there's a 5/4. There's a 7/4. The 8/4. There's a 10/4. There's a 11. There's a 12. There's a 14. There's a 15. There's an 18. There's a 16 as well. So there are so many of these weird counts. When I play Western music, I'm completely lost. I cannot stick to a 4/4. Every single note for me and count is like a separate thing. So when I'm with the band, sometimes I have to tell the drummer, hey, you keep the hi-hat groove or something to give me an idea where the one is. Because in my mind, I don't know where it is.
Wow. That's
You know?
interesting.
Yeah. So
That's really cool. Naders want to know if you've ever been to, I think this is in India, but the Kashava temple, the Chena
accommodate.
Kashava temple. I don't know how to say it. Hey, and if anybody new here has any questions for Raggy, use the channel points so I can keep track of them. It's just one fresh bar, so it won't cost you much, and
Yeah.
it just helps me keep track of questions and stuff. You're good, Pepe.
Okay, I'm now reading the chat. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
No,
You have not.
Chanakeshawa temple. I think that temple might be like a South Indian
Hmm.
temple.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe more towards the Carnatic music. Indian classical music is divided into two big sections. One is the North Indian branch, and the other is the South Indian branch.
Uh huh.
While they may seem to be similar to non-Indians, they are totally dissimilar. The South Indian branch of music is very, very focused on rhythms and counts and the beats, whereas the North Indian branch of music is where the rhythms and grooves are not so set, but they tend to be more based on subtle changes of melodies.
Hmm.
So they are different, yeah.
Hmm.
So when a North Indian musician will find it very difficult to play along with a South Indian classically trained musician, just the styles tend to be a bit different, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying which is better or not; it's just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, no, South is the best. No, the Pepe wanted to know which form of music touches you the most. Like, because when you go through your repertoire on your stream, you got anywhere from blues, rock and roll, your own music, and your own music is even tends to be bluesy and folky. So I'm just wondering, he's curious, and I'm adding on to it. What type of music touches you the most?
Um, I don't know. The thing is because I had so many different kind of musical influences.
Mm.
For me, it all depends on the state of mind I am in at any moment, or maybe in any day or whatever, and what I'm experiencing. Then certain forms of music seem to work for me on certain days. Yeah,
Ah.
even when I'm doing a stream in the course of 1 hour, I may like start off feeling like melancholy, and then later I just feel like, hey, I want to funk it a bit because that's what I feel like doing,
Yeah.
and that maybe maybe I'm a bit scatterbrained. I hop through different emotions.
I think that's just being
So
human. That's just being human. Like,
yeah, but some people are like gentle. They're
mm-hmm.
always gentle. I'm not. I can be gentle one moment, then another moment I just want to be like totally crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's just personality types.
Yeah.
So people always ask me, "What's your favorite form of music?" I got no idea.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, "What's your favorite song?" then I tell them, "Yeah, it's Mr. Bojangles because it's a song that somehow to me it's like it's a song that says it all. It has lyrics, nice music, and a good story behind it.
Wow.
But it doesn't mean I'll be playing Mr. Bojangles to a rock crowd. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. No, for sure. Mr. Bojangles is great. It's a classic. Yeah, so with Western music pretty popular in Malaysia as you were growing up? Like, I mean, it seems like you had siblings who liked Western music, but it actually like a very popular form of music when you were younger?
Oh yes, 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 yes. Even now, yeah, people
Hmm.
of my generation, the older generation, they would follow. I think we were following whatever trends were on in Western music. So except for my dad, except for my dad or people who of his generation, maybe came in from their old country, so to speak. People who came in from China, for
Hmm.
example, or people who came in directly from India. Maybe they weren't like not into this Western music thingy, but certainly anybody born in Malaysia, for example, or 70 years ago or so, would have been following the bands of the time. So like I said, my sister was into Ray Conniff, Hank Williams and stuff.
Hmm.
She bought practically one of their records, and most of her friends were like that as well. And the older folks they were very much influenced by like the Platters,
Hmm.
the old style music. So Western music is still very popular in Malaysia, but of course, the younger generation now listens to different forms of Western music. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a newer
Yeah.
music. Yeah.
Yeah. Pepe wants to know if you know any Hendrix.
Oh, I listen to a fair bit of Hendrix, but I can't play. But I can't play any Hendrix at all. I'm just too much in awe of the way he controlled the guitar and the sounds and what he was doing.
Yeah.
you know. And when I do covers, uh, when I'm on my own, I might practice covers that I'm not performing. So I might practice covers just to learn, hey, how the hell did that guy do that?
Yeah.
But when I'm performing, if I cannot do justice to a song, I leave it alone. Yeah,
Yeah.
I leave it alone because there are, for example, let's talk about Hendrix's music. Yeah, there
Sure.
so many people, even now, the younger generation, they have heard of Jimi Hendrix, right? And but I would dare say that if they were to watch a Jimi Hendrix video or they were to listen to a Jimi Hendrix song, they probably don't really appreciate his prowess. They only heard that name and they're supposed to be great, yeah,
Hmm.
because they're not used to that form of audio, and they're not used to that whole thing about just a guy with his guitar running through an amp with very basic kind of effects thing, creating all those sounds basically through the magic of his fingers.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the youngsters have so many apps that they can use to create so many other sounds.
Yeah.
So when they listen to Hendrix, I feel that they they probably enjoy Hendrix because people tell them it's something that they should enjoy.
Hmm.
But to actually watch him and marvel at how he's creating the music is only stuff that people from maybe our generation, my generation, so to speak, would fully appreciate. Yeah, running a bloody guitar through a tube amp and then somehow making that amp scream. So anyway, I can't play. I can't even begin to play any Hendrix because the first note that I play, I can't get that feel.
Yeah.
And so I leave it. And then a lot of people come up to me and they do ask me, they say, play us a Hendrix song. And I say, I can't. And then they say, hey, come on, you play these other songs. I say, I can't. And then they say, why? I say, well, either I'm a retard or Hendrix was like so great that, it takes a lifelong of learning to sort of like,
Yeah.
play like him, you know. And I see so many people stream and they play Hendrix songs, you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
mean, no offense to them, but I haven't heard anybody sound like Hendrix.
Yeah.
I mean, even Clapton couldn't sound like Hendrix or,
No.
whoever else,
Yeah.
Steve Vai can't sound like Hendrix.
Yeah,
He's
Stevie
got
Ray
a different
Vaughan.
feel.
Stevie Ray Vaughan did a good.
Yeah.
But he couldn't sound like Hendrix, but he did a good, his own version of Hendrix, I think.
Yeah, he did Little Wing in his own version, in
Hmm.
his style.
Yeah.
And I sort of like love Stevie Ray Vaughan's version of it.
Hmm.
But he didn't try to do it like Hendrix.
No,
Everybody,
no.
all of them, they knew.
Yeah,
So
and
for who, like, I don't have my version of Hendrix,
mhm.
you know what I mean? So I can't do. But hey, you guys know that I also do Hey Joe. When people force me into a corner, then I play a Hendrix song and I say, all right, if you really want me to do a Hendrix song, and I'll do a Hendrix song the way even Hendrix couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's
I,
the thing is like, people strive to sound like somebody, but really, you should be striving to sound like yourself. And the idea of, I'm going to be the next Hendrix. There's only one Hendrix. There's nobody ever going
yep.
to sound like Hendrix ever again. So to strive to sound like Hendrix and to be the next Hendrix is kind of, it's kind of a false way of looking at it because no one's ever going to be that. No one's ever going to be that guy who has like 100 hits of acid under his headband playing the Star Spangled Banner at 10 in the morning at Woodstock. Like that's already been done. It's over. It's like now it's time for you to find your own voice and to find your own sound. I'm wondering, do you feel like you found your own voice with music and your own sound?
I'm still on the path to discovery,
Yeah.
still on my journey, and I tell you, man, it's a wonderful journey. Yeah.
Yes.
I've got all these artists whom I admire, and when I sort of like listen to them and I see their videos, from Hendrix to Mark Knopfler to Santana to Clapton, yeah, to
Hmm.
some of the old blues people. There's so many things to admire, and I know I'm not them, and I can't be exactly like them, and I don't want to be like them because I am me. I am the result of my life experiences. But what I do is I try to use them as inspiration and then try to learn and then improve, And I find that, I haven't found my sound, and I hope I don't ever find my sound, so to speak, because I'm growing older. I'm getting more experience in life.
Hmm.
So, my thoughts and ideas should keep on evolving and improving. But I'm using all that I can find,
Hmm.
to inspire me, to improve. Like for example, I do covers, not because people are requesting covers and it pays me. Yeah.
Hmm.
When I do gigs, for example, I do a lot of covers because I need to entertain people. But I only play the covers that I love.
Hmm.
I'll never play a cover that I don't love.
There
And
you
then
go.
when I do, for example, If I do a Dire Straits cover, one of my favorites, when I practice it, yeah, I spend hundreds, sometimes even thousands of hours just learning one tiny section of one song because I want to try to get into Mark Knopfler's soul, not the head, not the fingers, but the soul to see what is that expression that he was trying to create. Yeah. And then if I can get that feel, even though I'm using a different technique, it's like wonderful. I've got another bit of vocabulary,
Mm.
in my possession. Not a finger vocabulary, but emotional
Yeah.
vocabulary in music that can be brought out by fingers. So then I do it, and so if I do like a Dire Straits song and then I improvise upon the solos, I always tell myself, "Hey, Reggie, try to improvise it in a way that Mark Knopfler would appreciate." In
Yeah.
other words, you're not corrupting his song; you're just doing your own thing, but with his song. So there'll be a Dire Straits feel
Mm.
to it, but I'm not playing the same notes that he's
Right.
playing. And then I might do a Clapton song, but put in a Dire Straits ish kind of feel because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Uh, you know what I mean? So, and then it's wonderful. So I'm learning new things. I can actually play songs today that I could not play last month
Wow.
because I wasn't able to understand it. And I'm constantly trying to learn. Yeah. My biggest handicap is that I don't read and write formal music,
Mm.
but that is also one of my strongest points because in the absence of being able to read and write it, I need to be able to feel it. And then when I'm playing, I have to, sort of like I try to learn movements. Not being able to read and write doesn't mean like I'm completely dumb and I don't appreciate music theory. I
Absolutely.
spend a lot of time studying music theory,
Yeah.
so I know that when I'm going to do this particular song, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing it in a minor scale, but then whenever I come to the sixth, I want to flatten the sixth because I want to emphasize the minorness of it all. And then when I'm doing that, I want to hit the major seventh once in a while because it brings some gentleness. And then when I'm trying to sort of like modify a song, I try to learn what movements will work. So I spend a lot of time trying to ask myself questions like, what is a diminished chord? Why would one want to use that? What does it feel like? Where does it work? Or what's an augmented chord? Why? And then one gradually, learns. So when I hear, for example, B.B. King in one of his songs, Guess Who, you know, he's not just a 12 or three chord blues player. Yeah, guess who? Bloody hell, he puts in that an augmented chord.
Mm.
He moves from G to A minor with an augmented in between, and like, hey, bloody hell, you know.
Yeah.
And I saw one interview with BB King on YouTube, an interview, and he was talking about the newer generation of players. And he was saying, I just play the blues the way I feel it, but these newer people, they know things like the diminished scale. And bloody hell, BB King started doing diminished runs on the guitar, on the fretboard,
Yeah.
just off the cuff like that. He knew all of this shit.
Mm.
He knew all of this shit, but he chose to use, what he wanted to. So I'm enjoying all of this. I'm learning all of these things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Pepe is kind of going wild. He said he heard you say you could play Hey Joe, so he's wondering if you would play it, or if you wanted to
I
play
can just
a song of your choice. But he wanted to hear you say play Hey Joe. But if you don't feel like playing it and you don't feel like you're gonna do
Hey,
it, then
hey, no worries. I'm happy. I'm happy. I've got my guitar here. Uh, is the audio coming through okay and clear? Like
it's
in the
coming through
stream quality?
your voice. It's not going to come through stream quality. That's the other side. That's the downside of Google Meets. So like,
Yeah, okay, no worries. But it still works,
yeah,
basically,
we can
not
hear
too
you.
horrible.
It's not horrible. No.
Okay, I can try, but like I said, you see, like Pepe, you wanted me to do, Hey Joe, for example, but it's not going to be the Hendrix Hey Joe because nobody can do Hendrix, yeah. But
Right.
I'll take his song and I'll do a reggae version of it,
I
which
think.
might, make you completely want to throw up, or it might make you laugh. I'm hoping it'll be the latter. Shall we do that, Mike? Shall we do that thingy? Let's try and see.
We could do that. We could do that. And I wish I could. I had a button to make you big, so I'm just gonna make you big
No need
manually.
to. Yeah, I think they can you just. I mean, it's the podcast thingy. We'll try. Yep. See. I can
Maybe.
even explain it. In fact, if you guys want me to do any of my originals or explain out any of the songs or whatever, I can tell you why I do what I do. When I do it, so to speak. People look at a clown in a circus and they think that the clown is playing the fool. Yeah, they don't realize that the clown has to put in so many extra hours of practice just to make sure he doesn't hurt himself when he's doing all of that falling, in the thing. And then so I practice a lot just to be able to do some nonsense. Yeah.
That's me. Morby said I sound like a sleazy manager. I'm gonna make you big. You're gonna go to the
Yeah.
stars.
I was just thinking, where the hell is the fucking Viagra? You know what I mean? But then, oh well, oh well. Music gives me a hard on, so I'm good there.
Hey, me too,
Um,
man.
all right. Now let's see. So we're gonna hey Joeyfy this thing here, but like I say, um, I'll do my own asylum version of Hey Joe, so which is completely unlike Hey Joe that Hendrix does. But I'm gonna do something in my Hey Joe that Hendrix didn't do.
Fair
I'm
enough.
almost tempted to say that Hendrix couldn't do.
Well, yeah,
But we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Yeah.
sure.
Hang on. I'm just going to see. All right. Pepe, no, no, no. It's not going to be a great cover. I'm just reading the chat to see. Warning, warning. This is not the cover you expect to hear.
It's
Um,
gonna be great.
but so feel free to let me know, Mike, at any time. I should stop that nonsense. Yeah.
Never, never.
Yeah, yeah, but it might be so weird that people don't want to hear. Hey, Joe. Everyone wants me to play your song. Hey, Joe. Everybody wants me to play a hand song. But hey, Joe, I know that will never be. Hey, Joe, what's that you got in your hand? Hey, Joe, is that a little ukulele made by a man called man? Hey, yo, it's a strange world we live in. Hey, yo, Hey, you. I'm not going to do something. Let me make you feel like shooting another man. Hey, you. I hope this don't make you end up shooting another man. I did say there's something I do that the hand cannot do. No, he doesn't do. Probably I never thought of it. Yeah, go. Think of it. Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. What's happening to you? Hey, Joe. Yeah. Hey, Joe. With apologies to all the Hendrix purists, you know. That was a kind of nonsense, yeah. I think that's like some of the nonsense that gets me thrown out of pubs and clubs. You know,
Oh man, thank you so much for doing that, Raggy. Well, you know what, Raggy? Uh, Google Meets. I don't know what's going on with it, but we heard your guitar. It was really low, but we did hear some of your ripping and roaring, so it was good. But I think we'll reserve any live songs maybe for your stream now, because If we heard your vocals, but your guitar was super low, so I don't think you should.
Oh, see.
We won't
Yeah.
we won't
Okay.
we won't do any more of that. But
Okay. All right. All right. Good. 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 Sorry, man. Sorry.
no, it's
But
not your
you know,
fault. It's
I got.
totally not your fault. It's Google Meets. I was trying to find like a way to make it so we could hear what you were doing, but there's it's just Google Meet sucks, man. Zoom actually you can hear everything. It's not great, but you can actually hear everything. So it's not. But I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you doing
Yeah.
that. And we
No
heard
worries.
the guitar was just super low, but we heard you ripping. We heard you ripping.
All right. All right. Cool. 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 All good. Uh, there's also something weird about the way that OBS captures the sound from my interface.
Hmm.
You know, so it doesn't capture what I am seeing on the meters. It's got
Hmm.
its own way of capturing some stuff. So when I'm doing my streams, I kept on tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until people were saying that okay, now it's balanced.
Hmm.
But over here, I'm not actually able to monitor the balances at all. I've got a tiny speaker which lets me know, that what I'm playing, so to speak. But it's not a balanced thing, and there is no vocals at all that I'm hearing through no headphones, whatever feed. So anyway, it
Thank you
was
very
just
much for that. We appreciate it. We appreciate it all the same. Everyone's clapping and happy about it. So it you're still spreading joy throughout the world, and we appreciate
okay.
that. Uh, so Raggy Cathosaurus, hello, welcome, welcome. The so I'm curious. So then, how did you go forward from with while you're in university? Were you playing bands? Were you singing? Like what did you end up? How did what direction did you end up going in university?
Well, yeah, they couldn't know. They couldn't keep me out of bands, and I couldn't keep myself out of bands as well. So first year in university, and I joined the local, the university band, and uh, I wasn't like a good guitarist, still too new to me the whole thing, but I just had to be with the people making the music. So so I played the bass. I played the bass for the group because I had a good sense of rhythm and groove from the tabla days.
Mm,
And then a few years of doing that, and we were playing in pubs. We were playing in pubs all over the capital city, Kuala Lumpur, and it was the era of rock music in Malaysia. Rock and reggae was big,
ooh,
and so I was in this band, and we played a lot of you know, like Bad Company, Deep Purple,
let's go.
Grand Funk Railroad, those stuff. Yeah,
The
and
classics.
uh, and, and then the guitarist in the band was really good, and he could play Hendrix. Seriously,
Mm.
he could play Hendrix songs, and so we played some stuff, and I was playing the bass. He would teach me the bass notes to play because he was very fussy about things. But when I started playing the guitar, I had no way I could play any Hendrix. I basically switched over from the bass guitar to the lead guitar because the guitarist left the band. So it
Mm.
was somebody has to pick up the guitar, and so we changed from being a rock band to being a band that did a lot of songs like the Hollies and stuff, basically chord-based songs as
Mm.
opposed to guitar solo-based songs. Then moved on. I mean, like I've always been in bands, and then when I left university and I started working, there was a hiatus period of 2 years where I wasn't with bands, but I used to play, practice in my room because I couldn't keep away from the guitar, and I used to go out every night. I wasn't at work. I'd go out listen to the local rock bands who were playing, and then later I joined in bands again. I could, if there are not too many people, I could tell you some serious, weird stories about working and being in bands in Malaysia at that time. Yeah, hang on, I could, Yeah, as long as, hey guys, anybody who's in the stream, just don't mention this out of this podcast, so to speak, or wherever it goes. Yeah. Uh, so anyway, okay, you very beginning of the stream, you asked me about my day job, and I work as a doctor. I still have practice,
Wow.
small family practice kind of a thingy. I'm what we call a general practitioner. I don't know if that's what you guys call it over there.
Yeah.
So I treat anybody from babies to their grandparents. And in Malaysia, it's different from the way medicine is practiced in the States. Over here, when people go to a clinic, they get a consultation, but the clinic also has its own pharmacy, and we provide the medications as well.
Hmm.
So it's like an all-in-one kind of a package. And I've been working for about like in this line or profession for about 40 years.
Wow.
I graduated at the age of 24, and I'm 63 now, so we are almost hitting 40 years. Yeah,
That's
and
incredible.
I now only work a few hours a day. Basically, I'm a private practitioner. I've got my own little practice, and I've got three staff who work for me. And I want to like go more into music, more into music, more into music. But they've been working for me for like 20 years, some of
Wow.
them, and then I can't sort of like just say, okay, that's it. I want to now be a focus on being a bum musician, so to speak. So I work a few hours a day just to be able to generate income that could generate them their salaries, and then pay the basic bills, and then that's it. Yeah, the rest of the time I'm music.
Yeah.
So I don't work too very much. I'm like semi-retired, you might say. I work for my staff. Can you imagine? I'm the employee. Yeah, I work to generate them income. So anyway,
That's very
but
generous, I gotta say. I mean, to
no, it's just something that one has to do. I'm a bachelor, by the way, so
oh,
my staff, my staff are my family. I always look upon it as that, and then they are all family people. They've got kids and stuff like that. So I'm I'm they are like family to me.
yeah.
And can you imagine working for somebody for 20 years, in a place where there is no proper social security or something, and then that guy says, "Okay, that's it. This is your last month at work. I'm going to be playing the guitar, yeah, and living off the streets." Can you imagine that? And you got kids and stuff like that, yeah.
Well, I
You know,
mean, but like as you get older, I'm sure you want to focus your attention at other things, and I understand what you're saying, and in a
yeah,
way I don't because I don't live in your culture and in your country, so I'm sure there's way more to it than just being like, hey, I'm just gonna go be a musician. But like I feel like as you get older, you want to start going in the direction and doing the things, spending your time on things you truly want to do, and
yeah,
I get it personally why you would want to do that. I've known a few doctors who are also musicians. I've known lawyers who just stop practicing law because they're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go play music because that's it. Walking away from these traditionally professional positions and just sort of following your passion. So for me personally, I think it's amazing that you still do both, but I also think I would I would applaud you to go and do what you want and follow your dreams.
yeah. But you see, being a doctor has always been my sort of like my ambition and passion,
Yeah.
and the fact that now I just work a few hours a day. The only problem is after I do my streams, I finish at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning in Malaysia, and I have to be up at 7:30 to be able to go to the clinic. But I just work for about 4 hours a day, and then it keeps my mind also active.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, in music, I'm a very selfish person. I
Hmm.
only play the songs that I love. I practice and do whatever I want to do. So it's a totally self-centered kind of a thing, yeah. But when I'm working in the clinic, I have a choice, yeah. I can be of help to people,
Yeah.
and it's a good feeling to know that hey, you can be of help to people, because otherwise, Otherwise, hey mate, what are we on earth for?
Yeah.
If it's just a question of doing things for ourselves and our own satisfaction, then the moment we are dead and gone, all of that satisfaction matters shit because we are not here to relive it at
Yeah.
all. Yeah. So I'm thinking that while we are here, we might as well as try to do something good. Everybody will claim to be a decent person, but to be able to do something good for people is not a waste of a life.
No.
But of course, I only do it for a few hours in a day.
No,
So it's
I no, and that's beautiful. I absolutely am with you. I mean, though some would say that playing music for people is medicinal, but
well
but
then I'm being medicinal twice too.
there you go.
I've got two things that I'm being medicinal about.
No,
But
I
anyway, I came into this. Hang on. I
sure.
came to this to tell you about. I mentioned that I was playing in bands even when I was working. Yeah, as a doctor in the government hospital,
Yeah.
and so there was this period where I was like I was working in this very little town that I am. I was working in the hospital, and we had this thing about like if you're a doctor, there were just a few of us, 7 or 8 of us running one whole hospital.
Oh,
And so we had to be on what we call be on call in the hospital. Basically, after everybody has gone back home from the office hour thing, one doctor would have to be available to help out in any emergency situation in the hospital, any new emergency case, or like any emergency that could be happening in any of the wards, from pediatrics to the labor wards, of woman giving birth to a child, to the surgical ward or some shit like that. But I was also in a band. Yeah, I was also in a band, and so when I was on call, sometimes I'd be on call for a few days in a row because I was trained to be an anesthetist. And so we had an operating theater in that hospital. So any surgical case that needed surgery, I was the anesthetist. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But then there were very few cases. It was a small hospital.
mm,
So anyway, I wanted to be in a band, and so there was this abandoned old building in this little town. By God, I hope nobody's going to report me for this. But anyway, there was this abandoned old building where the owner of that place said, "Hey, you guys can set up your band equipment here, and you can practice here." He liked music. He was a supporter, and he there was electricity, but nobody living in this old building. And so the band boy said, "Hey, we'll put our amps there and drum kits and stuff like that, and then we'll rehearse there." And we practiced every day. But the problem was, I was also supposed to be on call at the hospital every day. And this was before, we're talking about 1980s, yeah, maybe about 19, I don't know, 88 or 89. So this is before the era of mobile phones,
yeah.
you know. So how the hell could I do that? If I was at home where I should have been, if there was an emergency, well, they could just phone me on the landline, yeah,
Mm.
and so that I could rush over to the hospital, not too far away from my house. But in this place, there was no phone line. So we told the house owner, "You got to install a phone line, otherwise I can't be there
Wow.
because I need to be contactable by phone."
Yeah.
And then he says, "No, it's an abandoned old house and the telecoms company won't put a phone line there, you know. And we were like, "Oh shit, this is not going to work." So I told one of the guys working in the hospital, I said, "Bloody hell, I found this beautiful place where the band can rehearse and I can practice my music and but there's no phone line there." And the guy said, "Hey boss, no problem. We can get you a phone line." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I will get you a phone line. And I said, "How?" He says, "What do you mean how? He just picked up the phone and then, he called the telecoms company and said that, this is the hospital here and one of our doctors has work that he does at a building there and he needs a phone line because he's got to be on call there. Could you please get the phone line installed there?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, but when will this be?" The guy says, "We need it like yesterday." So anyway, the very next day, whole pile of workers came over, pulling cables, walking through like overgrown lawn and stuff like that. And they fixed the phone in the bloody hall of the house, abandoned house. And all of them were like, what the hell is happening here? And they said, we have instructions, got to put the phone line here. So we had the phone there, and then so we could practice the band, and we were practicing and we were playing, and you would think this is a bit crazy, isn't it? But it gets even crazier, yeah. So
Okay.
occasionally the phone would ring, and then, of course, when it rings, it will only be for me. So stop the song, walk over, tell the guys, don't strum, don't play the drums. Let me pretend that, I'm seriously on call, so to speak. I'd answer the phone, and the hospital would say, "Oh, doc, they've got a patient who's got this problem and stuff like that, and he's had a fall, and then problem with the with the wrist or whatever, And luckily, we had good paramedical staff there that said it could be a fracture, and I said, "Well, just do the bloody X-rays, What are you calling me for, Do the X-rays first, and then call me."
Yeah, yeah.
So So anyway, they do the X-rays or whatever, and so it became not unusual for our band practice to be interrupted by the sound of a wailing siren from an ambulance that came right up to that house, and then the siren would stop, and then the ambulance driver would come out, and they'd bring me a pile of X-rays or lab reports or stuff. They did everything except bring the patient over. Then I'd look at the X-rays. Okay, this is it. Sign in some orders in there. Okay, that's it. Off you go. Off you go. And then the drivers would say, "Boss, can we hang around a bit, please? Could you play a Deep Purple song, please?" uh, and so it took just a couple of months for then the the senior radiologist for the hospital, turned out to be somebody who enjoyed singing rock songs, so he joined the band. So now we had the X-ray department in there, and then one of the laboratory technicians could strum a few chords on the guitar, so we co-opted him as a rhythm guitarist as well.
Wow.
If it had gone on longer, we would have set up a whole hospital there. So that's how we do it. That's
Di-
how we do it. Yeah.
wow, that's incredible. And then so were you also doing live gigs as well? Were you guys out playing out and
Yes. Yeah, of course.
oh.
Bloody hell. We we were like doing live gigs. We were playing in bars and clubs and pubs. Whenever, I could be like not on call, so to speak, then we would do live gigs. Eventually I moved uh from like being on call every day. I worked out a scam. Haha. Hey, I worked out a scam with the guy who was doing the surgery. I said, "Hey guy, what's that? If I take leave and you take leave at the same time, we are both on leave, yeah. But if you take leave and I'm at work, then there is no surgery going on. Yeah, I'm free those nights. You know what I mean? And if I take leave when you are at work, then there is no anesthesia going on, and then so you have a few free nights as well, yeah. So we could both sort of like plan taking leave from work and stuff, and so we began to play in bars and clubs. Then much later, I didn't have to do that kind of crazy anesthetic 7 days call. I just had like one or two 24-hour shifts in the hospital, and then I had 5 days off, and then we were like playing 5 nights a week
Wow.
in bars and clubs and pubs. Yeah, and there are so many of these interesting, crazy stories, about those times because I was working in a hospital and I was a so-called respectable person, but I was in a band and we were playing rock music in some really sleazy pubs. Yeah, which were like really like things that only despicable people would do. But when you're working in the government hospital, um, there are a lot of work. There's a lot of work that we do in association with the police.
Hmm.
Uh, I was subsequently transferred to a different hospital where I didn't have to do any of this anesthesia thing. I was basically in charge of the emergency services unit, but I had a whole bunch of other doctors working with me. But one of our our tasks and jobs was also doing forensic work and postmortems. So every police case, we didn't have enough pathologists in the country in those days. So even junior doctors grow old fast. And so I was basically in charge of the emergency services unit, all police cases, the murder cases and whatever police case, yeah, assault, robbery, rapes, and all those things came under our section. And I had to maintain like police logbooks for these kind of cases. And so if a case needed a post-mortem, I couldn't call in a pathologist to come in and do the post-mortem. I was the guy in charge of it. And so, I could phone in a pathologist for help, but basically I needed to be able to do things. And, sad to say, I've done, so many of these post-mortems and then write in reports, testify in court as to, causes of death. And in Malaysia, the police force is a very strong, powerful body. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so they would bring in so many different kinds of cases to the hospital, and we had very few private medical practitioners or private hospitals in those days. So all of the work associated with these kind of things fell with the government hospitals, and I was in that bloody frontline department that was receiving all of these cases. So basically all of the police staff, they knew me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, like I was the guy they'd have to bring their cases to, and the police, from the police sergeants to the officers on duty to the superintendent of the police station, they all knew me, and I had to sign off on many of their cases. Uh, but I was with bands. See, now he's coming back to the bands. And so at night, when my bands, when my band would be playing in the sleazy places, and when I say sleazy, I seriously means sleazy places, because that's where rock music is allowed. See, fairly regularly, the police would raid these places because they are looking for, like, drug
Yeah.
traffickers, these things and stuff. And they enter a place, a whole bunch of police people, bring along two or three trucks so that they could sort of like cart off everybody into the trucks and put them into the police cells. Then they will send people for urine, for drug analysis, and look for IDs and all sorts of things, like a terrible, terrible police state kind of a thingy. Yeah.
Oh.
So, and then if there were girls in the bar, they would be asking them for their IDs. And if they were like not very well documented girls, you know, ladies of the night, so to speak, from nearby countries,
Yeah.
they'd be carted off. They'd
Wow.
be carted off, and then the bar would lose business completely. Yeah. So there we would be, the band playing on the stage, and we are like, oh, rocking it away. And then suddenly, from dark lights, the fluorescent lights will come on. There'll be a whole bunch of like 15, 20 police personnel in uniform in there, and asking everybody for their IDs and carting people off. Yeah.
Oh.
So it was like thing there. And then, when my band was playing, invariably, the guy leading the thing, he'd look up on stage and then like, shit, you are here. And I'm like, huh? And then he like, shit, shit, you're here, you're here. And then he just turned around and tell the others, hey, he's here. That crazy doctor is here, I mean, like, let's go. They turned around and they'd leave. They would leave because, like, they didn't want to cause trouble for me, yeah, in case I got upset. And then the next time they brought in some of their cases to the hospitals, I like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do a postmortem for you today. I'm like tired. Let's hold the body in the fridge for something. So it was a weird kind of a thing. It was a
Yeah.
weird kind of thing. The guys running the sleazy bars, they're like, hey, can we hire your band? Actually, I said that you don't want my band. You just want me like some kind of a protection against these cops or whatever. Uh, but hey, those were weird days. Yeah, those were weird days.
That is
There were a
weird.
whole bunch of I better stop because I might end up telling you more than I want to tell you.
Oh
Yeah,
no, no.
already
I'm
told you.
sorry I interrupted. You were about to go into something else. What? Yeah, because I was thinking, like what was what was a case that sort of stood out to you that you had to, examine and go over?
Oh no, no, hey man, lot. There were a lot of things. Yeah,
Mm.
seriously, you didn't, Um, you must understand that I was working for many years, in the government service, and then basically at a time where there weren't that many doctors around. Yeah, we were
Wow.
running one small hospital. A few, even a small hospital will have like 200 beds, and there were just 7 or 8 of us running the hospital, all kinds of emergencies that we were doing. Um, so I've seen a lot of shit, which is
Mm.
why when I do my music things, I don't want to talk about that thing.
Yeah.
But now we've gone into this, yeah, let's talk. Maybe just ramble away at some things, and some people will say that that can't be true, but it's that, yeah.
Yeah.
Weird things. You know, one of my best friends' dad hanged himself,
Wow.
and the police brought the body, and I had to do the post-mortem for my
Jeez.
best friend's dad. There was nobody else.
Wow.
There was nobody else. It's like, so, like, what weird things, you know
Mm.
and there was a senior police officer whose wife took, whole some overdose of medicines, and basically she tried to commit suicide, and then brought into the ICU of the hospital. And the guy, like, this cop, he always seemed to be a somewhat arrogant kind of an asshole. He was begging to me. He say, "Hey, doc, please don't let her die. Don't let her die. Don't let her die." And I was like, I didn't realize this guy loved his wife that much. Yeah, it was but turns out that this- that they were Muslims. Yeah, I'm not a Muslim. Yeah, but this was a Muslim family, and for a Muslim to commit suicide means 100% you're going to go to hell, and you can't even be given a proper funeral
Right.
rites or stuff like that. And for a guy to have his wife commit suicide, like the end of it all for him, so to speak. And I was like, I don't know. I said we can only try our best, and thankfully she survived.
Yeah. Wow.
But those were like weird times. And then this hospital in this town that I work in those days, we used to have many, many, many people with snake bites. Yeah, there are two basic uh, forms of poisonous snakes in Malaysia. Common ones. One is the cobras. A cobra bites you and you're dead. You're fucking dead.
There's
Yeah,
no serum. You
even you get
can't.
sent to a hospital. They are very, very rare survivors from a proper cobra bite. The
Whoa.
other the other snake that is very common here in Malaysia, much more common, are pit vipers. They are sleepy little snakes, and they bite you, and they could kill you, but many times they don't kill you. But if they are giving you a serious bite, then you bleed internally to death. The cobra bites will paralyze you and also cause you to bleed. And you guess how many of these snake bites we would get in a month in
Um.
this town that I live in. In this town that I live in, yeah, we between 7 to 10 cases will be brought to hospital every day.
Jeez. Every
Every
day.
day, and but most every day, but most of them were viper bites.
Oh my
In
god.
fact, this town was like famous in Malaysia as one of the places where the old hospital, we were receiving so many viper bites that even people from nearby towns would bring their patients over here, or anybody whom they was bit by a viper, because they said this hospital everybody knows what to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
even the cleaning lady could look at a wound and tell you how the patient was going to go.
Wow.
So anyway, but when you're working, you're working. Yeah. So there was one guy who was like, we hardly had deaths in the pit vipers thingy, because the hospital was like, everybody was experienced. We knew when to transfuse them with fresh blood. We knew when to give them the anti-venom and stuff. Those days, the anti-venom itself could have killed people because there's a high rate of allergic reactions.
Hmm.
So there was this guy who was bit by a viper, and he was like bleeding, and The anti-venom wasn't working, yeah. And so he needed fresh blood. It was the middle of the night and he needed fresh blood. And so we have a blood bank with blood. So called up the blood bank attendant and he says, like, boss, the precious blood that we have, is like about 4 or 5 days old. This guy needs like fresh blood. And then he was of a blood group type that they didn't have, very fresh blood. So he was like going to die. And then so we like, what the hell? And then the lab test said, hey, by the way, he's a group B. Yeah, rhesus positive group B. If only we had somewhere we could get some fresh blood. And fuck it, man, I was, B positive as well. Yeah. So I look at the lab guy and I said, damn it, I'm on call. I've got a 24-hour thingy to work. And then he looked at me, I looked at him, and and then I said, you got to screen blood. But this was before the days of HIV and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But still, but still now you still screen the blood for some illnesses, hepatitis and stuff. But working in the hospital, I had a lot of, these vaccinations or whatever thing is you don't call it. They have been screened. So anyway, I like, shit, this guy's going to die. We know he's going to die because he's bleeding, he needs, and the anti-venom is not working. And everybody in that hospital, I mean, like, everybody was like so experienced. We knew this guy. That's it. So we told him, we need to get you some fresh blood, but we don't have time to screen the blood and do all the tests. So are you willing to sign a document saying that you won't hold the hospital responsible if you get a reaction to the blood or any illness from the blood? And the guy like, you know, and his relatives were like, what if you don't give him the blood? I was like, well, we think he's going to die.
Yeah.
Unless you want to take him to some other hospital, but this hospital was supposed to be the center of excellence for this. So they said, okay, we'll side. We don't want him to die. Yeah. So I was hoping he didn't sign. No. So anyway, that's it. I go off to the bloody blood bank, and the guy drains a pint of blood for me, and we've got this thing. You need to run in about 3 pints of Hartmann, so like a saline solution to replace the volumes for 1 pint of blood, so to speak.
Wow.
So anyway, drain a pint, and then the next morning they took another half a pint from me and gave me the replacement. And I still had to do the bloody call duty, 24 hours,
Yeah.
walk around the hospital, other thing. And so anyway, by the next day, the guy stabilized combination of that fresh, very fresh blood. Maybe it was the Guinness in the blood that helped him. But anyway, something worked for him, and the guy survived. And cool. And I was like giddy and stuff like that. But we kept it quiet. Of course, we didn't tell the staff. I mean, we didn't tell that guy or the family or anything where the blood came from. So it was just anonymous kind of blood, just in case something went wrong, then he wouldn't be able to sue me, so to speak. Yeah.
Right, right.
So he survived, he recovered and all that. And then 2 days later, he started complaining about the quality of the hospital food, saying, oh, this food here is not tasty.
Oh
And
hell
the
no.
nurses were like, bloody hell, what an asshole, yeah. And I said, well, that asshole part is probably whoever donated the blood to him is like some guy who eats a lot and likes to eat food. So so interesting days, interesting times.
So you saved his life
Uh,
though.
I don't know, something worked.
Yeah.
Seriously, something worked. The anti-venom, whatever, maybe a combination of factors, but at least I was willing to try
Yeah.
to help him. And those days we didn't really we it just fairly. I'm sure many other doctors did more. Yeah. Hey, I even know some doctor friends who were like sperm donors. Oops, but that's a different story. That's a
Ayo.
different story altogether.
Let's go. So I mean, I can imagine that, like, balancing those two lives, the dichotomy of being a doctor and you're saving lives and snake bites every day, and then at night you're going out and playing these weird seedy places. Was there ever a time where you were self-medicating, like with alcohol or something, that just sort of
No,
no?
no. No. I'm very happy to say that in my entire life until today, I think I've never taken a single like sleeping tablet or one of
Mm.
those pills or whatever thing in there. And I would drink alcohol because I enjoyed it,
Mm-hmm.
not because I needed to sort of like drink it or whatever. And I really never had the thing about needing to use a substance,
Mm.
whether it was alcohol or any other substance.
Yeah.
There was a period where I was drinking. I enjoyed beer. I began to bloat up because I could drink beer in copious amounts, but I would hardly get drunk. At least I think I hardly get drunk. But then my dogs would complain of me throwing up on them. You know what I mean? When I come back home, so perhaps. But then I used to like sort of like when playing, in the band, I used like drink a
Yeah.
hell of a lot. Sometimes, yeah, get high and all that. But after a while, no thrill.
Yeah.
It was no thrill. And nowadays, I hardly drink at all.
Yeah.
I might have one Guinness once a week, or maybe once in 2 or 3 weeks, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that's beautiful, and I think that just certain people are built for that kind of work, and I can imagine that the music was sort of your medication that sort of relieved that pressure of the work you were doing. So, am I right about that? Am I right? The music was sort of
Oh
there.
no, I don't know. I don't think so. I just the music was is a separate part of my life.
Hmm.
Seriously,
Wow.
the music is the main thing in my life, and then this work thing is a separate part of it.
Hmm.
A separate part of me wants to be like a knowledgeable person doing things.
Yeah.
But I never needed to have music to sort of like take away tension from work.
Hmm.
You know, I would just be happy to finish work just to just and then go into making music, which I love, but it's very complicated. Yeah. Sort of like I suppose I'm like a polygamist. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
In
you
it's the thing. I
compartmentalized
enjoyed
your
it.
yeah, you were just good at
Yeah.
compartmentalizing your stress and your tension and stuff, and I mean a part of you must really enjoyed being a doctor as well, and you probably thrived on it. I know a doctor who thrive like he anytime there's like a pandemic or if there's like an outbreak or something, he's the first one to sign up and he is on a plane and he is in the middle of it because he just thrives on it. So I mean there's
No,
no, I know that's not you, but
maybe
I'm just saying that certain people have just it's just
yeah.
what's in them. They can just handle these sort of things because that's the type of person they are.
You
What's
know,
go ahead.
okay, sorry. I was going to say, I'm not like that kind of
Right.
a doctor. I don't go in thinking that I'm going to like be saving the world or saving people. I actually, if it is possible for something to go wrong, it'll happen to me when I'm at work, in the hospital or in the clinic, and I had all the bloody complications that people would say you see once in a lifetime. I've seen all of them in the very early stages of my medical thing. So I was like, when I go into the hospital or even when I go into my own practice, yeah, I always have this trepidation. Yeah, like, oh no, what if something goes wrong today? But uh, at the same time, I was taught by one of my professors that if if you practice as a doctor, no matter how good you are, how good you think you are, chances are you're going to be making mistakes, and chances are there are people who are going to be dying from your mistakes. But if nobody goes in to become the doctor, then a lot more people will be dying from no help. So all you need to do is like try to save more people than you kill. I mean, like it's a very crude way of putting it, but so you try your level best
Yeah.
and do the minimal amount of harm to people.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as a truthful thing because I do still have sort of like I don't know, nightmares you want to call it, or thoughts, recurring things of patients that I have failed. I
Wow.
made mistakes and they died. Yeah, I'm talking about mistakes. You know what I mean? But then again, I've done a lot of I would think so decent work for people, and so I just hope like one negates the other, so to speak. But everywhere in all over the world, folks, people die in hospitals. I wouldn't use the term unnecessarily, but I would say maybe avoidably. If you just had a different doctor, you might have survived that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are a lot of people who are surviving who, if they had a different doctor, they could have died.
Yeah.
So it's like crossing the street. Yeah, you run a risk. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so people going in the hospital, they run a risk. So the only thing that one hopes to do, if you are a responsible medical personnel, is try to do your work diligently and minimize the harm that you could probably be causing, and then you 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 sort of like maximize the amount of good that you are doing for people. And when you have that at the back of your mind, that hey, I am actually doing a lot of good for people. Lord, please forgive me my mistakes, and the devil down there, hey, please, don't bring me in for that bit of shit that I did in there. And who knows? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
You know. I mean, you've when you've seen enough people. By God, are we talking about musician reggae or the other reggae? When you've seen enough people die in your hands, and you've seen enough families suffer and weep, uh, you if you're a human being, you always ask yourself, could I have done something better? Yeah. And then you also ask yourself, then could the world, could society have done something better? Yeah. Many people die from totally unnecessary causes. Yeah, like just being poor, for example, children with not enough to eat, starvation. In the world, these are like avoidable things, but society a lot of times will look away. Yeah. You know, and you talked about disasters. I have done work for this charity group. You probably know of it. Doctors Without Borders,
Yep.
MSF. Yeah, I've done work, a fair amount of work for them, for refugees who come into Malaysia, undocumented refugees. The Rohingyas, people from uh, Burma who are being persecuted, and Cambodians and stuff. And so that's one thing. And then when they had that huge, big tsunami, Pacific tsunami, I don't know, many years ago, more than 10 years ago,
Yeah, I
during a
remember
Boxing
that.
Day thing.
Yeah, there was hundreds of thousands of people that got affected by
Yep.
that.
Yep. I flew to Sri Lanka on a relief mission that was organized by a Buddhist association in Taiwan. Yeah,
Wow.
we had to pay our own expenses to go there and pay our own expenses for the food and lodging that we had there. You know,
Yeah.
so if were not allowed to touch a single cent of the donations that people were sending in, so all of the donations were only going to the victims. I thought that was a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went, and then bought my own air tickets, and some friends who knew that I was going, they chipped in and they helped to pay for my expenses. But the experience that I had over there opened my eyes to a lot of things that people do in terms of charity. You were mentioning about a friend who would go to help out in these
And he was
places
a
and
part of
stuff.
Doctors Without Borders. That's part of what he does. Is he'll
Yeah,
go
yeah.
into
So
natural
anyway,
disasters.
cool. So there are a lot of doctors who do that, and many of them are good, decent people. But there are also some people who work with other obscure charities, who are what I call disaster tourists. They go in for a lot of these so-called disaster relief things, uh, as a kind of a glorified holiday. They get their expenses paid for. They get
Mm.
salaries. They stay in expensive hotels.
Wow.
Hey, when I went to Sri Lanka, we we had to stay one night at the capital city before we went into the interior, and the only hotel we could find was like a bloody expensive place. So what we did was four doctors or three to a room, yeah, cheapest
Wow.
room. and we had to pay in US dollars, and we would eat food outside, just for one night, and bloody hell, it cost a lot of money. And then we met this guy who was working for some international charity organization. He was like staying in that hotel for 2 or 3 months, and he was in charge of disbursing funds to fishermen who had lost their fishing nets. And he was like bitching and moaning about the fishermen trying to get the maximum amount of money that they could get, and how he had to really really scrutinize the expenses and stuff like that. All the while he kept on, he was ordering whiskey sodas from the hotel, yeah, at a price that was like, about like 20 times the price of a whiskey soda outside.
Wow.
So this guy was like basically running up bills of thousands of US dollars a month, and bitching and moaning about giving people like $50 here and $50 there. Yeah.
Gross.
And you see a lot of these people. You see a lot of these people. And apart from Doctors Without Borders is a good charity.
Mm.
Even a doctor who works for them full time, so to speak, is only given very, very, very basic uh, accommodation and a very basic allowance, just very meager, yeah.
Yeah.
And they really do work. They do really, really, really good work. But a lot of these other charities, we have this thing about the needle and the syringe.
Mm.
People donate money, and the syringe goes to the organization.
Yeah.
The needle goes to the victim.
Yeah.
Less than 5% of what people donate for disaster reliefs
Right.
actually goes to victims.
Yeah.
More than 90-95% is swallowed up by various organizations. That's
Administration, executives. Yeah.
Yeah, they all get fat salaries. They get fat salaries,
Yep. Yeah, that was
and
the
so
that was sounds like Twitch. That was the big thing with that was the big thing with Katrina and with Hurricane Katrina, which happened here in the States in New Orleans back in the early 2000s, and and it happened with Haiti when there was a hurricane or an earthquake. It all came out with the Red Cross, where 90 some percent of the money just went to executives and administration, where just a very small percentage, if the money even made it. I know there was a big scandal with Haiti where like almost none of the money made it there,
yeah.
which is disgusting and just terrible. Wasn't there a volcano that erupted in Malaysia like a couple days ago?
No, not in Malaysia. Malaysia has no volcanoes.
Oh,
Probably Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Indonesia has volcanoes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Malaysia has got no great natural disasters. Yeah, we have no earthquakes, no volcanoes, no hurricanes,
Wow.
no typhoons, cyclones, all that shit. Yeah, we only have horrible politicians.
Let's go. Um, well, we're coming up on 2 hours here, and I know you got to get to bed because you gotta do stuff in the morning. So we got a couple more questions here from chat, and then we'll let you go and get some rest, and go save the world again. So
Actually, I'm actually off tomorrow. I've got the whole day off on Saturday,
let's
so
go.
I'm relaxed. But yep, so I'm good. I'm good.
Uh,
Okay, what
Cathosaurus
questions?
had a couple questions. Which guitarist was most inspirational to you growing up? A guitarist.
Which guitarist or
Yes.
which guitar?
Guitarist.
Guitarist. Yeah.
Both, actually.
Okay. Well, Santana,
Hmm.
um, Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, uh, Eric Clapton in my younger days, yeah. And
Hmm.
then later on, I'd say Jimi Hendrix. I was just too much in awe of him,
Yeah.
so I couldn't even learn any of his songs. I was like, in there. And then there were a whole pile of the other rock guitarists from that era. And I also, like, apart from rock music, like, or blues music, I'm into folk music. So James Taylor, Jim Croce.
Hmm.
These were like people I found so so inspirational. Yeah, but I think that like Mark Knopfler, I still emulate or try to emulate his feel and the way his kind of selection of notes in playing. Eric Clapton, because I listened to this one incredible album of his. It was just one night. Eric Clapton live in Japan. Yeah,
Mm.
it was a double LP recorded in Japan, and until today, I think that's what like the best live Eric Clapton album I've heard. Some wonderful, wonderful guitar playing and solos.
Oh,
I later did.
George Harrison was on that album?
No, 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 no. This is just Clapton.
Mm.
The other guitarist who played with him on that concert tour was Albert Lee.
Oh, okay.
It's called Just One Night,
Oh, just
you
one
know,
night.
uh, just one night. Yeah. And I found out later that Clapton himself, his guitaring was inspired a lot by, uh, Otis Rush, or was it Otis Redding? Yeah. So
Mm.
he had his influences, and then I began to like research, into these people who were like, who influenced him. And nowadays, I sort of like I listen to any song that has got a good feel,
Mm.
and it may not be a guitar-based song. It may be a song with a beautiful bit of saxophone playing in it, or trumpet, or a flute thing. And I try to, imagine this, and then when I play the guitar, I might use that feel into it. Yeah, because I mean, why compartmentalize music into rock and blues and pop and jazz?
Mm.
So for that reason, why even compartmentalize an instrument into guitar and piano and whatever? So you notice that in my stream now, I've got this. Yeah, that's the album. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
Just one night. Yeah, you're showing it.
Look
Yep.
at him.
Like when I play nowadays, I've got a Hammond organ kind of a simulator pedal, and I
Nice.
bring in organ feels because some songs just sound so much better with that kind of a thing. And then I listen to all sorts of things. A lot of the times when I'm playing the guitar, I'm not even strumming the guitar. I'm sort of like plucking, but I don't use my fingers. I use a pick and do my own weird thing, neither here nor there thing. But then the chords that I play and the chord inversions that I play, a lot of the times they are based upon what a pianist would use
Mm.
as chords. Yeah, so I might like, play chords with alternate bass lines or play an inversion, which is a bit different because I love the sound of the piano. And so when they tinkle the notes, I think why can't I just try to tinkle on the guitar? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, I don't know, stuff like that. Yeah, uh,
The is the thing with Clapton, because I don't know if he's still performing because I think he suffered a vaccine injury, and I know he came under attack because of some past things, and Cathosaurus brought it up that he ended up apparently he was racist, which I have heard that, but I don't know what it was. But I love Clapton, and regardless of what they're doing, I mean, I don't know, R. Kelly, I stopped listening to his music, but I'm pretty good at separating the art from the artist because Clapton has just done amazing work. And
yeah,
but it's sad, that these older guys, again, he got affected by the vaccine. So I don't know. I don't think he's actually performing anymore. It's too bad. I would have loved to seen him, but yeah,
yeah.
it happens.
Well, I don't know about Clapton being that racist thingy because from what I gathered, yeah. Well, this vaccine thing, yeah, I did see that interview he did where he was like, basically ranting against the vaccine. I thought he was being illogical, but then again, who is logical nowadays? So he had his right to being that. But as far as like being a racist and stuff like that, I don't know. He did a lot of good work for a
Hmm.
lot of the old blues musicians, and was one of the few artists who would pay proper royalties for songs from the black musicians that
Yeah.
he was covering. and there were a number of these musicians who, like, who ended their lives in abject poverty, and Clapton paid for funeral expenses for a fair number of them and helped them out. But then again, there always are some musicians who think that they deserve to be given more, and then, calling somebody a racist is quite an easy way to sort of like generate some things in there. So I don't know, I
And
don't know.
discredit
But having
them.
said which,
Yeah.
yeah,
They'll like
yeah, but
that's like
having
the go-to thing now, right? Like calling someone racist automatically shuts down anything they have to say. It's sort of just thrown around. It's a word that's just everybody's racist, or you're this phobe, or you're that. You hate you, or anti this. I mean, there. I don't know. He's. But yeah, I know he came out against the vaccine because of his own personal injuries, which I can see that. I can see that. If you got injured by something, then you're gonna be like, hey, I don't like this. This isn't working for me. So maybe not for you too. But, anyways.
yeah.
It's a weird time that we're living in. What was this is a good question. What was the best names of bands that you've played in?
Oh, I'm from Malaysia here. I never played in any like band that anybody knew in like
I know, but like, what are the best
oh,
names? Like, because sometimes people have silly names, like Guar. That's a
oh, you
band.
mean like names?
Yeah,
uh well, I don't know, well, when I was in medical school, we had a band that we called Mad Stuff, yeah, and everybody thought it was MED, but we were
med
like,
stuff.
Mad Stuff, in there. And then I think there was a brief period we had Johnny and his dangling balls, something like that. But that didn't last too long, yeah. And it didn't last too long because there was some other guy who had a band called something and his dangling testicles. So it was that. Uh, I did do one. I did do one sort of like concert in the university that got me into a lot of trouble. It was like a rock concert that we did,
Hmm.
but we sort of like borrowed we borrowed a skeleton from the anatomy lab, a full blown skeleton, and we had that skeleton on its stand on the side of the stage, and then we were rocking to it and having that skeleton thingy, and then later found out it was an actual real human skeleton. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Uh-oh. I mean,
god.
it wasn't like, it wasn't like a plastic thingy in down there, Hey, so, oh well, yeah.
Well, that's
No,
pretty.
but apart from that, we like, I think, decent bands. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good, man. Reggie, I had such a wonderful time talking to you. I mean, Johnny and the dangling balls for the win. Let's go. I love that. I really really appreciate you coming on, taking the time again, you rating in with your people, and I know it's 4 a.m. for you, so I appreciate you staying up late with us and hanging out. I've been asking people at the end of our conversations, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten?
Oh my God, I don't know if it best in relation to anything in life, so to speak,
Yep,
or in
yep,
relation to music.
anything.
You know, I think the best, seriously, the best advice I had is, uh, work hard. This is a stupid thing to say, you know, but you got to work hard for what you want.
Yeah.
Why do I say that? Because this was advice given to me that turned my life around. Work hard for what you want.
Yeah.
I dropped out of school when I was about like 15 years old. I was basically playing a lot of. I was like a monkey. I liked everything. Yeah. I was in playing every sport in school. I was in music was big part of my life, and I wasn't paying attention to my studies.
Hmm.
And then at the age of 15, I couldn't continue with my education. I wanted to be, well, I wanted to be a doctor. That actually was one of my ambitions, but I didn't make it. And then in school, yeah. So I couldn't make the grades. And so at the age of 15, I had to sort of like drop out of school and studied in what we used to call the night classes, basically some kind of classes that were run by volunteer teachers for dropouts, where you could study and try to resit for examinations and get your life together again. And there was this one teacher who is a very old teacher, and he was a very strict teacher. We all were in fear of him when we were like in the normal schools, yeah. But he was the guy who was supervising those night classes for the dropouts. And so, when I went in there, he would talk to every student individually, like, why do you want to enroll for these things? And then he asked me, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, I actually wanted to be a doctor, yeah. And he looked at me and then he could have just laughed me off, yeah, because like getting a place in medical schools was one of the toughest things in the education system in Malaysia. We had just two medical schools in the whole country in those days. And I had already dropped out of school, yeah. And he looked at me square straight in the eye and he says, work hard for what you want. Then he looked at me, And he actually said that. He said that you are not here because you are a failure. He says nobody is a failure. He says you are here because you didn't work hard for what you wanted. You can give any excuse that you want, but you didn't put in the work
Yeah.
for what you wanted to do. Because I think we are individually, we are not stupid people. If we are not capable of doing something, we wouldn't have that thing as our burning ambition. But if we think we can do that thing, we might have it in our ambition, but then we don't work towards it. So we all are imperfect creatures. Yeah. We all struggle with various other issues in life and stuff like that. But if we really, really, really go down to it, yeah, we can achieve what we want. In our minds, if we just put our minds to it. So very stupid, funny piece of advice, but work hard
Yeah.
for what
I,
you want. Yeah.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Man, Raggy, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Everybody, put your hands together for Raggy.
Cool, man. I enjoyed.
Hey, man, I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me here, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will talk to you
Sorry if I
soon, my
rambled on
friend.
a bit crazily too much.
Everybody, thank you, Raggy. Everybody, let's go. Let's hear it from Raggy. There he goes. There he went. There goes Raggy now to bed. Raggy is cool. Yeah, he is so cool. Raggy is probably going to sleep. It's 4 a.m. Boom! Baby, let's go.